Hello and welcome to Unpreachy, a podcast of homilies from St. John Chrysostom Parish. Today, Father Brian Zumbrum reflects on Luke chapter 6, verses 27 to 38, the Gospel reading for Sunday, February 23rd, 2025.
So this past week, I had the opportunity to hear Ruby Bridges speak. Now, most of you may feel like you have a vague memory of that name, but many more of you probably remember the iconic Norman Rockwell painting of a little black girl with pigtails walking between armed officers as she entered school. That little girl was Ruby Bridges, a 6-year-old who integrated her elementary school in Louisiana. Now, I'm somewhat ashamed to admit I knew nothing of her story beyond that simple fact. So listening to her speak was both mesmerizing and heartbreaking. Yes, she integrated her elementary school. Yes, she was accompanied by armed marshals every day of her first grade year. And yes, she had to walk through a line of teenagers and adults who yelled at her, cursed her, and threatened to bodily harm her as a 6-year-old. But what they don't tell you is that when she entered that school, she went into a classroom by herself, because only one teacher in that entire building would teach her. For an entire year, she ate alone, played alone, and learned alone, kept completely separate from every other child in that building. And the one day, after months of her teacher advocating behind the scenes for an end to this continued segregation, when she finally got to meet the other kids in the library for the first time, a little boy looked at her with all the matter-of-factness of youth and said, "I can't play with you because my mom said I can't play with an N-word." 6 years old. Now, I have to be honest, I was really angry at this point in the story. Because as a teacher, the idea of anyone treating a child like that, there are no words. See, I can take the cursing, the hate, the mistreatment when it's directed at me. I'm an adult. I'll be fine. I've had plenty of angry rants after homilies, and I'm okay. But when you pick on one of my students, when you come after one of my grads, when you pick on someone more vulnerable that can't protect themselves, I am ready to fight fire with fire. After listening this past week to a young man weep because he's terrified his parents will be deported and worries his federal grants may be upended, after talking with a grad who's unsure of what to do since the work he's been doing to build inclusive spaces in his community is under attack and his own identity questioned and vilified, after watching grads who took the risks to serve marginalized communities both here and abroad, who did the work of building the kingdom and are now watching it all crumble around them, I just want to shield them all from the cruelty and the ignorance and the hate. And if that means I need to fight with every tool in my arsenal, well then so be it. It's kind of where my mind went. I wasn't proud of it, but it's where I was at. But then Ruby kept speaking. And she goes, "You know, my first grade year was one of the best years of my life. Because that teacher, that one teacher, she made me feel special and cared for and loved." And then Ruby moved into preacher mode. And she said, "Each of you can be that teacher. Each of you can be that one, the one who changes someone else's world." And in just a few words, she dropped me right back into this gospel. Listening to Christ speak again, reminding me of who we are all called to be as Christians. The ones who bless all, who pray for all, who give to all, and the ones who love all. Now, Jesus didn't speak these truths from some deep naivete, as if he was unaware of how the world worked, or the depth of wickedness of which people were capable. Nor did he assume that this work would be easy or comfortable or convenient. He knew that if we were going to live like him, we would pay a steep cost to do so, a cost that he knew well, as he bore a cross that was foisted upon him by those who hated him and feared him and were threatened by him, and yet who he refused to let change him, as he continued to forgive and heal and liberate up to his final breath. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. My friends, I'm convinced that this path is the one we can walk as well. Frankly, one that we must walk for the sake of ourselves, for the sake of our sisters and brothers, for the sake of this world entrusted to us. One in which we refuse to lose what makes us Christian. That even when our hearts are broken by the suffering of others, even when the injustices around us leave us infuriated or exhausted or defeated, we too keep forgiving and healing and liberating. We keep praying and giving and loving. For then the world will truly know us, for they will have encountered Christ's love once again. May God be praised.
Unpreachy is a production of St. John Chrysostom Parish in Wallingford, Pennsylvania. Visit us at sjcparish.org. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. This podcast was produced by Brendan Lorden with music by Skytoes on Upbeat. Thanks for listening. Be well.